Hi, I'm Delee Perry. I'm the daughter of Mermaid Perry, founder of Weeki Wachee Springs, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about my dad. My dad knew that there were lots of people back in the 40s that did not know how to swim. And the only thing that they could see would be people swimming on the surface of the water. And he wanted to create a show where you could see people swim underwater. And so he had an idea of building a theater where people could sit underwater and be dry and look through windows and watch pretty girls swim in underwater ballet routines. And that was the way he started his idea about Weeki Wachee in the theater. He had a good friend named Ross Allen, and the two of them used to love to explore the springs around Florida. And one day, somebody told him about this spring out in the middle of the woods. It was going to be near State Road 19, and State Road 19 really wasn't much more than just a dirt road. And they went, and he was so discouraged because people around the area had dumped all kinds of trash into Weeki Wachee, and he was concerned about the environment. And he thought that if he ever had the opportunity, he would come back and help clean up the springs. And that's really the first time he saw it, was probably during the 1930s. First time he saw Weeki Wachee. Once he got Weeki Wachee going, one of the first things he put underwater was what was called the air trap. And over the years, it's been different things. It's been a shell, it's been a castle, but originally it was just a little clear bubble under the water where you could swim in, get a breath of air, and keep swimming. And he knew that he needed to be able to stay underwater a little bit longer, so he thought, how about a hose that I can breathe air out of, and that would make it so I could stay underwater 40 minutes if I wanted to. And in the early years, my dad did all of the underwater routines, and he did the whole show. In fact, he was a one-man band. He would sell the tickets, he would collect the tickets, he would do the performance. At the end of the day, he would do the cleaning up. When there was no show, he would have to clean the glass because algae grows onto glass, and he would clean the glass. He was kind of a janitor. And then some of the local girls came by, and they were very sad that they couldn't swim in the springs. And he says, well, let me see you swim. And he was impressed with their swimming skills. And so he began to teach them some of the underwater routines. In the early years, the shows were underwater shows were pretty short. And so he wanted his guests, his patrons, to have something more to be able to come to and just see a few minutes of underwater swimming. So he got the aqua bells, and they would put on shows on the surface of the water, and it gave the tourists, something more to see. And he also would hire divers to come in and do exhibition diving. And my mother was one of those who came in and did exhibition diving at Weeki Wachee. One of the things that was really unique about my dad, he always felt like there was more to learn. And if somebody had a suggestion and he thought, that's a better way to do this, he would take that into consideration, watch, and if he really approved, that was a go. And that was something that the Aquabells did. He wanted more underwater swimming, and the Aquabells created different moves underwater that my dad really approved of. And one of the moves was the Adagio. And he says, that's the pose that we want to close the show with. That is just a beautiful way to end, and it became a trademark. The very first show that they did, the crowd was really small. I would say probably no more than 35 people. And one of the ways that he got the word out, he actually became a member of the Florida Attractions Association. And by being a member of the Florida Attractions Association, he was able to get with other attractions in the state of Florida and advertise, especially in the New England and the northern states. It was an easy way to, let's, come down and see Silver Springs, let's see Cypress Gardens. And so they would do like group advertising. And as people came down 19, the girls actually would go out and wave at cars in their bathing suits. And, sometimes the car would stop because maybe they had heard of Weeki Wachee, or they were interested about why are these girls out here waving, in their bathing suits. And so curiosity really brought a lot of tourists to Weeki Wachee. One of the things that really helped the girls stay underwater for longer and longer periods of time was the air hose. And in the beginning, there was just one air hose. And then as more girls would be in the show, he saw that there was need to have an air hose for each one of the girls. In the early years, there was no shutoff valve. So the air hose would just constantly flow, and you would kind of hold it in your teeth. And if you didn't want the air flowing in your mouth, you would actually bite down, and that would kind of stop the flow. Then they got smart and put a little valve on it so that you could shut it off or turn it on. But it made it so that the girls didn't have to wear bulky scuba equipment or go to the surface to take a breath of air. And it just made for more magic underwater. My dad had worked with the movie industry on several different levels. One, he was with the Tarzan movies, and because of his connections, Hollywood was making a movie called Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid, and the female star was Anne Blythe, and they wanted to do the underwater scenes at Weeki Wachee. And so they came to Weeki Wachee, and when my dad first met Anne Blythe, she could swim on the surface of the water, but she couldn't hold her breath more than 15 seconds. And to really get good shots, you got to be able to hold your breath for a minute, minute and a half. And so he had to teach her how to relax, how to swim underwater, how to control her breathing. And the underwater scenes from Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid were shot at Weeki Wachee. And my dad helped to build the set. There was a whole set that they had to put underwater. And he said she was one of the nicest actresses he had ever worked with. My dad sold his interest in Weeki Wachee in 1950. It wasn't because he wanted to sell. He felt like maybe it was time to move on. But Weeki Wachee was his baby. That was his pride. That was his joy. And we would go, we might not go every single year, but we would go back at least every other year. And, even when they first started doing the Mermaid Reunions, we were there. And it was just something that it was so close, dear and near to his heart. And even, as he was on his, he was dying, we would see things, or he would reminisce about Weeki Wachee. And that was just one of the happiest moments. And it just makes me so happy that Weeki Wachee is still alive and honoring him.